Chapter. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest? If not, I'll get into this. Okay, what I did here is, because we're trying to give them some guidelines, staff knows what it takes to, they're much better positioned to know what it takes to maintain the operation. So the focus of the meeting should be, what do we want to do outside of the normal operations, okay, and give direction to staff on that. One of the things I did do is I put together this spreadsheet. I had a little bit of help from Cynthia to make sure that the numbers that I used were realistic, okay? And we've had a couple of terms of council where costs have been taken out of the system, okay? And this has gone on for an extended period. So I just thought I would do get an idea of, what has the impact of that been? So I prepared this spreadsheet here, okay, and I sent that out. And the first column is just the year. It went back to 2009. 2008, 2009 is the first year of a new accounting system, so it's pretty hard to do any comparison before that. But that's a 10-year period. And then I sort of extended out here because we know we made the change to the OPP policing, but we're not really going to see most of the savings till about 2022. That's the first year contract that we'll have where we'll be running on the policing cost model. So we started out by, I put down the CPI is a Canadian price index. That's the inflation factor for each year. You've got the operating expenditures, and back in 2009, they were $14,137,000. And in 2022, or 2019, we're at $14,306,000. So that's 10 years we've gone, virtually no change in absolute spending on the operating side. And I ignored the capital side because that's driven by, and it varies quite a bit because of what grants you get and what your capital needs are. And in 2022, another 3 years from now, we'll be down around 13.7 million, give or take a little bit, okay? That's a rough estimate, but it's probably not too far off, depending on what our actual calls for service work out to be with the OPP. That'll be less, that'll be over a 13-year period. Firstly, we'll have less costs than we had 13 years earlier on the operating side. To run the day-to-day business, the complex, the public works, the town, the policing, library, the whole works. I then turn around and say, what would have happened if we had run the status quo through that whole period? Meaning, we just kept our spending increases to the cost of living, okay? And the next that column there is 2009 expenditures with yearly CPI increase. That shows you where we would have ended up if we kept the spending to just the cost of living. No new program, just kept everything to the cost of living. And the column next to that shows the difference in spending. So in 2019, and 20, we're looking at, by the year 2022, our spending will be about almost $4 million less than it would have been if we had started with the 2009 spending and just kept our spending to the cost of living through that whole period.
Okay.
And the last column there, operating expenditure, just shows you the yearly increases. And there's a very few years that were over the cost of living, and in most cases were lower or a little bit on the negative side.
Now, when you say negative, just to be clear, that's the positive side for us, though, right?
Yeah, it means
okay.
less spending than the year before.
That's right. Okay.
Okay, if it's positive, it means you spend a little bit more. But if it's negative, it means you spent less money on the operating side the year before.
And you got that number? You derived at that annual
You
percentage
just
through minusing?
Yeah, you take the 1 year and the next year,
Yeah.
subtract one from the other and divide it
Okay.
by the year
Yeah,
before.
I understand how you do it. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, okay. And part of the purpose of that is we're going to turn around and talk about some operating budget guidelines. And this sort of drives home the point there's been a sustained period of time here where the spending has been constrained, okay? And there's only so far you can go on that, okay, before you start to having to affect service itself. So, and just as a byproduct, I looked at the taxation rates, okay? Our taxation rate compared to our area communities, and we started out at about 60%, 66% higher than the surrounding communities, and we're down just a little above the other communities, but we're providing a higher level of service. Okay, we've got a complex here, we've got things that the other communities have. So everything being equal, and that doesn't include what the impact of what the OPP policing is going to do for us. When that kicks in, we may be only 10% above the other communities. And for the extra services, I say that's pretty good.
Well, it's kind of nice we were able to do that. Like we were able to keep the cost down for about 8 years, I think, Cynthia, it was.
Even longer.
Or even longer than that.
Yeah, that's why I went back to
that was a lot of
2009.
effort.
Because that's 2 councils plus a year into this council.
Yes.
Just to provide a little bit of context, where we have been, where it looks like we're going, okay, and so when we talk about what are we going to allow for a yearly increase in the operating expenditures, we can at least keep some of this information in mind, okay? Okay, so from that, I'm just going to start with with what I had proposed for the agenda, and that is what changes or additions of service does council want to make to the current level of services being provided? Do we want to improve services in an area or reduce services? Okay, and reducing services may allow us to cut expenditures. Increasing services may require some extra expenditures to do that. Okay.
I would go to our people for that. Like, I mean, to the professionals.
Yeah.
What do you guys, what do you think about that? Either.
Well, it's really council's
It is.
decision. I mean, we will go ahead and prepare the budget based on, the existing service levels.
And is there anything wrong with the existing service levels?
That's already, go ahead there, Jill.
I've had a number of people call that they want caravan services expanded. I've talked to all of them. The taxpayers subsidize the caravan. And we do have a private taxi service in town that could use the business as well. So in some ways we are offering a subsidized service that competes with a taxi service. And then when they wanted it expanded, it would significantly increase our costs. Like they were looking at having it on weekends and having it on, they wanted on all of the stat holidays. And like, well, there's only still so much that we can offer. So I'm happy in terms of what the caravan is providing to our community. It operates Monday to Friday. It's during the working day, so people can get to doctor's appointments. They can get to, if they have another appointment elsewhere in the community, they can get to it. Like one of the calls is they're asking for services to transport to Sudbury, and it's like, no, we're not in that business of transporting people to Sudbury.
I saw that, yeah.
So it's just some comments that I got from residents that were looking for that expanded. Personally, I'm not sure that we necessarily need to go through that greater expense to do that.
And I agree. I mean, it would really be nice if we could.
Yeah.
And if there's anybody else that wouldn't mind, chipping in, I think that would be well received as well. But we'd have to have something like that. I don't think we can do that alone. We just haven't got
we don't have the.
No.
We would have to work in conjunction with outlying
town,
communities
sure.
and maybe create a transport service to Sudbury, but it would have to be something that all of us would work
Everybody has to
together.
pick up the tab, right?
But we're probably too early to do that if we
Yeah.
were gonna do that, but that is something we could maybe look at down the
Yes.
road, okay? And we know in a couple of years' time, we're gonna maybe start to see our cost structure drop again, okay? We'll be lucky, I think, just to hold things to inflation this year, but
I'm not even sure we should ever offer anything to Sudbury. We have everything we need in this community. We have the hospitals,
Good
we
point. I know
have
what
the
you're
rec
saying.
center, we
Sure.
have that. So why would we take our residents out of our community to go have them spend money elsewhere? And there's lots of service volunteers that will transport, like Canadian Cancer Society, transport people for appointments and stuff. I know that there's been another comment saying that we should maybe look at shared services to provide transportation to bring outlying areas to Espanola for services. And that might be something, I don't think it's anything that we want to necessarily start spending the time investigating right now, but potentially that could be something in the future.
That could be a
Because
few.
if we can bring outside people to our community, then they're spending
Sure.
money in our community.
I like
right?
that idea better.
You know, and it's something that, because we are that central regional hub, like as small as we are, we're still way bigger than our other communities around us, and we're like the full service community.
Yes.
We're the community that does everything.
It's got to get out there better,
Right.
though. If there's something we should do or could do, maybe to get it out there, that we are the hub, like we are.
We are the hub.
I mean, we're center.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't get there in this.
I agree. I totally agree. So, you know, potentially it might be something that we want to investigate down the road, is looking at, because we already have a caravan, is there something that we can do that will bring other people into our community, right? And maybe it's another cost sharing type arrangement. So maybe on Mondays, we have everybody to the west of us come this way. Maybe if it was Tuesdays, we can go east and bring people here, and then we just leave it as that. And the other days we're here. So if someone is in Massey and wants to go to a doctor appointment, well, I'm sorry, Monday is your day. It's the only day we're going that way, and the only day we're coming back.
Oh, yeah.
So there's some potential, right? And if it's a shared services agreement, then we're not picking up, and our taxpayers are picking up the cost of that. But it may be something that we choose to look at down the road.
So would you say, just to be clear, I mean, in some areas, we'd just say, I know some of that could be for entertainment and so on and so forth, but the other could be for shopping and
Yeah.
And
Well,
other
our
medical problems.
medical problems,
our caravan brings our residents anywhere in the community, right?
Right,
So it could be the same kind of thing. You come from, we'll have one pickup spot over there.
right.
You get to the pickup spot, and then we'll bring you here, and then we'll bring you back.
But if we were looking at shared services, I think we'd have to look at another van.
Yeah, but- and-
So there would be the added cost and the maintenance and everything.
Yeah, but then they're paying for that for their residents, right? So it wouldn't be a burden on our taxpayers.
That's right.
ever.
That would probably be better referred to the Laquash Hotels for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be the type of thing to work out with
Yes.
that, and
Mhm.
if there's any interest among the other communities to do that type of thing.
That's right.
Yeah, but when we're talking about levels of service, that's kind of falls into where do we want to go with this eventually,
I like that.
or
though. I think-
potentially.
Now, what about the economic development that we were partnering with the outside communities?
Mhm.
Is there anything we need to be looking at right now?
I haven't heard back from Landback, actually. They were gonna, get us the application and stuff, so I haven't heard
That's
any
right.
more on that. I know they've been busy, I'll have to follow up with them.
I think we should put some money into the budget. I had that as an item. We should, assuming that maybe partway through the year, halfway through the year, we're gonna have to start picking up our portion of the tab for an economic development officer. I think we should at least, I don't know, but for 8 months, let's assuming that everything goes really well, we probably wouldn't hear back till the end of the first quarter or something like that. That'd be very optimistic. But if that happened, you might want to make an allocation in the budget to
To put something in the budget for it.
Hire someone and start to absorb our part of the cost, which are gonna be roughly 10%.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was.
That's right.
10% of the total,
But it gets
and
higher,
our
doesn't
portion
it?
might be half of that or 2/3 of that, depending on the other communities that come into that.
Now, how long was that supposed to be for? 3 years?
3 years. Yeah.
And I think, did we lose a little bit of ground each year on?
No,
was it
after the
10%?
3 years, it went down, then another,
Yeah, I think
there was
it
another period of time and it
90%,
went down again.
90%, 75%, and 50%.
Okay, but this was after each 3 years
3 years,
interval?
3-year intervals. I
Okay.
believe.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I wanted.
So I think we should allocate some money in the budget
Yes.
for that,
I
okay? And we'll leave it up to Cynthia to try to work out what you think she should put in that.
Gee, aren't you lucky, Cynthia?
Well, it's gonna be a guess, but it's not too far off. If you're gonna hire someone that,
Yeah.
if you assume the salary's around and benefits $100,000 and there's gonna be they cover 90%, that's 10,000 plus some other odds and then we pay a share of that for the area.
So if I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so in with there, quite a few of our meetings, we've been talking with the complex, losing staff, underutilizing, and so on. And so from what I understand, Joel was first hired as manager for the public works, and he took this on as a second one. What if we start to look for someone who has the qualifications and the desire to try and be a real go-getter to bring up our attendance and use of this, to try and make it more, at least, balanced?
I'm gonna agree with you there, Maureen. Like, one of the downsides of holding the budget, like we said, 10 years later, we're still at the same budget. A lot of the cuts do come from staffing. And so I think Public Works has it a little bit harder because they don't have someone taking care of the day-to-day operations and somebody taking care of all of the projects that need to get done because his time is now being split. And we don't have that specialty in terms of recreation services management that's going to try and increase all of that programming. So there may be some potential there.
I also agree.
To improve the service, not the service level, but the programming services that we offer in the community.
I was also thinking with that, when they were going to, if we were sending out a proposal for them to apply for it, to give them a case study in that this is the challenges that we face. How will you address it to make them, to try and get the best possible candidate coming in? I don't know. What do you think? I don't know what you do for interviews or that, but I mean, if I were looking to hire somebody, I would like them to give me some kind of an idea on how they would go about bringing solutions or recommendations.
Yeah, so well, that's all right. We're getting a little bit sidetracked.
No, I was just part of it.
Yeah,
That's why
I know. At this point, if we agree that we should put in, if we want to increase the level of staff support in that area and how we do that, maybe leave that up to Cynthia. And it might be that we hire a full-time recreation director, okay, who's got lots of experience. And, is that fair for everybody?
Yeah, I think we should look at something like that to try and get more of a positive spin on here. And
it is a little bit of money though, and I would appreciate at least council being part of the process to some degree.
Yeah.
When I say that, I'm only talking about like once you figure out if this is a good idea, then perhaps we could have a demonstration or some sort of a demonstration done by that individual. And
Be part of the hiring process. Have a couple
just
councils
so
on
that
the
we
hiring
don't make
committee.
any decisions.
Yeah.
That
Well,
are,
we wouldn't, I don't know if we or on the hiring committee, because we don't make those staffing, we make staffing level decisions, but then after that, that becomes a management function.
I just want to make sure council is prepared for what they're going to get.
Oh, absolutely,
mean?
and I think we're part of that, but
Yeah.
not the actual.
But no, anything that goes on afterwards goes on through City,
Yeah.
of course, and
Yeah.
that's how that works.
Yeah,
Right,
we-
Cynthia?
Yes,
Yeah,
please.
go ahead.
I would just like to make sure, because this is gonna come at a cost, there's absolutely no doubt, and
That's right.
leisure services is a discretionary service that has been the brunt of a lot of the cuts over the last several years.
Right.
So, I mean, that would be fantastic. I'm sure everybody would love to hire a
Sure.
full-time manager there, but I'm not sure you're gonna see a big return on the revenue side. So,
And that's true, and that's the thing that I was getting to. That's why I'd like to be part of the process in order to evaluate, even on my own. I mean, I'm sure you can evaluate as well, but I'm just, if we're gonna say yes to something like this, I wanna be sure that we're doing it for the right reasons.
Well, I guess, go ahead,
Okay, so
Let you go with it.
I agree that there's a cost, but I'm looking at the other benefit. We want to advertise Espanola as a place to live, as a place to come to. We want young families want recreation, they want these other benefits. And I think it's always been, in a sense, realized that having a complex, you're never gonna make a lot of money at it. What the biggest hope is to break even, and even bigger is to bring in more people who want to use that service and use other services, move here. So I believe, yes, in one way, there's going to be a cost, and I'm prepared for that cost, but I think the benefit on the other side is going to balance it off.
Okay, go ahead there, Jim.
I'm gonna agree with you, and I don't think recreation will ever come close to breaking even in any community ever.
I do agree.
But that's what people pay taxes for, right? So we can provide those kinds of services. But where the hidden benefits come from is freeing up the employees that were hired to do the work in public works, to do the work in public works, because I think because we've spread people
Pretty
thin,
thin, yeah.
it's we can't get the jobs done that we need to get done. We can't get the jobs planned that we need to get planned. So we have this block there, and I understand the need for holding the taxes as firm as we can, but I do believe that there's a benefit to having that body, because you start tying in marketing, you start tying in communications, you
Yes.
start tying all of that stuff into what's happening with recreation, because that's the things that people want to hear.
Yeah.
In terms of what's happening in the community, that's the things that make your community sound very attractive. So I think there is definitely a benefit to putting the right body into that position.
And I'm gonna suggest at this point, because we're talking about adding some costs, that we take the operating budget and we separate it into two parts. One is I'll call it initiatives to improve service or whatever, and we put something like this in that, so that Cynthia, we don't add a whole bunch of cost and then say, oh yeah, by the way, you got to hold the operating budget to 0% or cost of inflation.
No, I realize
Yeah.
we can't.
So I think we should show that when Cynthia presents that, and then we can talk. As we look through the numbers, we can make a determination whether we want to keep that in at some point. Okay, but at least we'll have said, here's where we'd like to go, and we can make sure that you just ring. I tend to turn it off, turn the volume off, and then 8 hours later remember that
You turned it down, so it goes up.
yeah. Okay, so is that fair for everybody?
That's fine.
So Cynthia's staff isn't going to be held to a thing. We put a whole bunch of stuff in, and here's the expectation is rate of inflation, and we've added 2% or whatever it is to the operating budget because we've added some things for improvements. Okay, so we can have that as identified, if Paula's got that, we'll look at that.
So I have something else that may be popular, may not. Okay, so we were talking there about the building permits and how far behind they are. So my question is, do we have other staff that can come in and do office work to take the paperwork off the building inspectors to get these building permits cleared?
So we do, we can improve that a little bit. Angela does help to a limited extent, and so does Paula, actually. So I think, you know, certainly in preparing for the succession too, that we need to look at that and see if we can improve it.
I was just wondering if a person that, like, you know, an office staff in that
Yeah,
area.
and I did speak with Dan this morning, actually, because we sometimes get like a co-op student.
Yes,
And so that might be helpful to start going back and thinking through, like sending out letters to follow up and that kind of thing. So I would think that we should be able to manage that now with the staff that we have. Hopefully we don't know, Paula.
I'm just curious. Well, I'm comfortable with everyone talking about some of these things in open,
Yeah,
to be honest, but that's just,
Yeah.
because we are talking about staffing levels and so forth, so, you know, we are kind of on the edge, but I mean, I do think we can plan for it.
Yes.
But
I
currently,
think-
right now, I don't think we have capacity.
Okay, I'm gonna suggest,
So,
yeah.
sorry, I don't.
yeah,
Okay, I'm gonna suggest, you've talked about something here, and I had an item on mine here that says money to develop a plan to modernize their delivery of service.
okay.
Okay, and that would mean maybe streamlining these functions. And another item I had on here was money to identify IT services that are deficient or can be improved to improve efficiency, service delivery, computer intrusion prevention of municipal services. So what we could do, okay, is allocate some money where we have some people come in and look at our systems and say, what can we do to and work with staff a little bit, but someone maybe come in with a little bit of an outside perspective to say, how are we delivering these services? Okay, and is there some things that we can do to modernize maybe the delivery of building permits? We started a process to computerize some of that stuff. I don't know how far that's gotten, but there's or IT services, okay, maybe we can make it easier for people to do, instead of having to come into the office to actually do some of the stuff from home, or we have one computer system talking to another, and it doesn't talk completely, and we have to do some manual data entry, which requires resources.
Okay, I thought we had talked a few months back that we were going to be looking at bringing in a firm that was going to improve our IT department across the board, or am I missing something? Because I know I've mentioned before about bringing everything up, so.
yeah. No, I don't think that we ever had the direction to seek a firm to review our systems. I know we have talked about it. It's definitely on our list, but.
To me, that's number one.
Yeah.
Like,
So-
that is number one. You know, everything is electronic. You have to be able to have everything talking and working and integrated, because otherwise time is money, and the more manual, the more time, the more cost.
Less that staff
No, I
is
agree
able
with
to accomplish.
Yeah,
I mean, you should only have to put in anything only once.
It's just that we've never had the budget to go out and.
That's right.
And take care of those issues before. So I mean, if that's available to us now, then that'd be great.
So what I'm suggesting is we allocate some money to have an assessment done in that area to define what we could do or couldn't do, what it might cost to make changes, at least this year, okay? And then maybe next year you'd be able to.
No, Bill,
Yeah.
no. If we're going to go ahead, I honestly think we should be looking at it for this budget coming. So I do, but you had a comment.
I'm just confused. Sorry, I'm
That's
just for
okay.
clarification, I'm confused about, are you talking like software? That
Whatever
does one-stop shop, or I'm kind of confused because
Whatever.
I think maybe I was not here for the original conversation. maybe? I'm not sure.
No, remember it came up a long time ago when we were talking about the servers.
Last
and
year,
that
I
kind of
think, yeah.
thing.
Yeah, whatever it would need, it's probably a
Beginning of this year.
combination of
So-
servers and equipment and software.
Okay, so we have, a couple years back, we invested in Vatum software, that was a new accounting program. So just so I understand where we're going. So we got the accounting software and we've got the water and sewer module in there. We have the building module in there. That's where our tax module, our APAR, so I'm not sure if that's what you mean.
Whatever it would take to streamline everything, like if that's working great, great. If you need to be able to put something else into that system to improve on it, that's what I mean, to try and have as few systems as you need, but they can talk to one another and they can go with like the fire department, the library, the public works, everybody to be able to access this information.
Just an example, maybe I'm off beat here. As an example, we'll say, because we were talking about the building permits and so on, would it be fair to say then that this would be added into that same?
That's
So then
what I
when
mean.
you always have it that way. I mean, then it's at your fingertips. Whatever you want to retrieve from that, you have. And you should probably have a
You're
machine
saying
with
no.
them, like,
No, I'm not sure, I just don't understand.
No, well,
No,
right now.
I just don't understand either. Because
like,
we
how-
already, like, all the building permit information is in the module.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's all in
Oh,
one system now.
well, then that's fine.
Okay,
So
yeah.
that's been completed then, okay? I know that a couple of years
There
ago.
is another thing we were looking at in getting the tablets for them to go out to do inspections.
That was
They
my
could
next
take
word.
Pictures,
Okay,
and we never were able to get those two talking.
Okay.
So,
It's really, it's an ongoing, and it's dedicating the time.
It is.
The
But
resources, meaning people resources.
Yes.
But dedicating the time means a resource, okay, that you have to pay for because we don't have that resource.
Well, and it has to be
in-house.
somebody who works with it every day. maybe,
Sure.
Like,
I know
that
in,
would be the building department because they use it, but then they also need.
but they need it tied
Me or
together.
somebody as a
Yeah.
resource, so that's what we were working on, yes. But all of our data is in one area now. We do
Okay.
have,
there are just like,
with the exception of ActiveNet, but.
yeah, Leisure Services uses ActiveNet and POA has their own reporting system for the courts, for their collection of fines and stuff. So those are manual re-entries into our system. So if we did have an IT support analyst kind of to program that, so that
To
would be.
tie them together.
Yeah,
Sure.
Yeah.
that's like a one-time kind of, well, it is a one-time setup, but you need somebody that knows how to fix it when it goes wrong.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
So you need someone, we do, I know we all have talked about like an IT position before, and but it's what we need is very, normally there's different levels of IT, like an analyst and just a technician, and then some like a systems expert kind of thing. And we need someone that can do kind of all three. And it would be hard to attract, but we've never, again, had the time to sit down and map out exactly what we might need.
Well, I would like to see that done because to me, that is paramount.
but we have to define what we want to have done. We can talk in general terms.
But I think you already have an idea of what
We
we're
do,
talking about.
I need some time to write it up and talk with Paula and talk with our IT person that we have now and figure it out.
Because in with that, you also want to bring in your cybersecurity and everything
We
in
definitely
there.
need all our
Yeah.
policies updated.
Yeah.
and,
That's something we need to
yes.
definitely dedicate time to, is updating our policies on, like internal, you
Yeah.
know, and
No, I agree.
external, basically.
It's just all that costs money, and we've always
That's
been
right.
under the gun that
Yeah.
0 increases, right? So,
Yeah,
Yeah,
Well, this year, in my opinion, this is a #1 thing that we definitely need to look for.
I absolutely agree, especially with our recent experience.
Yes,
and,
I mean, we were so
Yeah,
lucky.
that was,
Mhm.
I had to reprogram my machine.
okay, now, just for everybody's information, last year, we received a grant for $637,000. And that grant was to modernize service delivery and efficiency for the town. Okay, to be used at our discretion to do that. So we have a pot of money that we can use to turn around at least for the next 2 or 3 years or a couple of years to use that. Last year, we were going to use $70,000 of that to do some insulation on the arena, to improve the heating loads and refrigeration loads in the arena. So there was a return on that capital there. So we got 637,000, maybe minus 70,000 to do if we decide to continue on with the arena. We sort of approved it.
Yeah, so if you recall, Joel did bring forward the staff report on that because the roof needs some other attention.
Sure,
as
that's
well.
right.
And so,
300,000?
yes, around that. So we are working on a funding application that's due November 12th, and we're including the roof and the compressor at the complex for that.
Okay, good.
So we could use, maybe some of that for our share because the installation's still going to get done. It's just going to be part of a bigger project now. I was going to say something else and it escaped me. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Staff may have some other,
Oh, the efficiency funding, yes. So the other thing we spent over that so far was roughly the 10,000 for the e-scribe.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so we've got still a big chunk of money there, okay, and so we could turn around and put together a plan as to what we want to do with that, utilizing that grant money. It actually doesn't really hit us on the taxation side. It means we spend more money, but we're not having to go out and tap a taxpayer for that.
Well, this is what we're doing, right? We're brainstorming what we
Yeah.
would like to give you as ideas and so on, and you're gonna come back with costs and I realize there's gonna be a cost, but I believe in the long run, the benefit is far gonna exceed the payback we're looking at, so.
And I think the IT support that we need would definitely fit in with that efficiency funding.
Yeah, and maybe you want to hire a full-time person to do that. But
May not be
it's
able
up
to get
to,
away from it.
yeah, well, we're already paying for someone for what, 2 or 3 days a week there now.
One day.
One
Well, I
day.
mean, it's been more.
yeah,
One
it's
day.
a lot of remote work.
One day
Yeah.
plus.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we can do that.
Yeah, you can access it remotely.
I
Which
think-
we're very lucky to have.
So one of the, if I can-
Go ahead.
One of the things that we've always, being towing the line, just keeping everything in.
Yeah, status.
When we look at IT services and we look at improvements to our servers and security and so forth, we do need to spend some money to upgrade this. And I mean, yes, we've got this efficiency fund, which is great. So I know it's a matter of us proposing what we need. It's someplace that, we really need to put some attention to and figure out what we need. And it's not all just manpower, there's
No.
some hardware that we need. And
Oh, I
there's
know,
gonna be
yeah,
some
yeah.
ongoing
Sure,
support
sure.
costs that we're gonna need.
Well, we need to identify that.
I would
Okay.
think,
We're
So-
on it.
Yeah.
We're on
So,
it.
I'll give you, with
I'm
this
sure.
discussion, then Cynthia and I can sit down and
Yes.
map out and then come back with,
Mhm.
well, this is, like, maybe not one cost right away, but map out the areas where we can
And-
meet some of these.
Yeah.
And you're here
Need
to have
some of these things.
priorities,
I
right?
wonder if we could also add the impact at the end of the day. Like after this is all said and done, everything is working properly, what would be the impact to that for you in particular?
Oh, the time saving would be.
Well, I'm thinking, I'm not sure about that, but
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, you know, I'm not the one re-entering the receipts and stuff.
no, it takes
So,
somebody.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it might be a little hard and, but, you know, a lot of it's just not getting done now, like the efficiencies, so
And
it's
that's the
hard to
biggest problem.
measure.
Yes.
But for sure, another thing that we wanted to look into was online access for residents, so they can check their tax account balances and they can check their utility
Yes.
That's a very nice function, right?
and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So that would all be part of
Making it
an
interactive,
improvement,
like almost.
So you guys have been talking about it,
We have,
Yeah.
but we've never.
but that's as
So
far as
we're
it goes,
giving-
right?
we're giving you
had the
permission.
Direction
Yeah.
or the budget to.
That's right.
Yeah.
We're giving you permission to put a line, get some cost in there and that cost will show up outside of the normal change in operating budget. So it'll show up as something, we're adding some costs to the system. I noticed in a couple of communities, they create a new initiatives, if you want to call it, area in their budget, so that here's what we've done in the budget, here's what's changing in the budget from year to year, and here we have new initiatives, and here's the impact of
Right.
the new initiatives.
Right, okay.
So that way it's clear that the costs have changed because you've taken on some new initiatives.
And I could probably break out, like add another column, although we got so many columns, but you know, when I have the different in the budget from year over year, I could add a column for that new
Oh, yeah.
initiative.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
And that way, you're looking at a change in the budget, and maybe it's over inflation, but the new initiatives may be the biggest reason
Yeah.
why you've done that.
Cynthia's right, I mean, we've been trying to save money and we've been tightening the belt and everything, and I'm still for that, I mean, don't get me wrong, but I'm certainly for progress as well, so.
Yeah, because at some point in time, 10 years and no increase despite all of the CPI
Yes.
indexes, like that came out of the community somewhere.
Yeah, well, sure, it always does, right?
It does.
It's gonna
So-
show somewhere.
So it's, and I think in terms of levels of service, I don't know how much of a change of the levels of service residents really see. Like the basic services, we've had recreation, we still have recreation support. We had the complex open, the complex is still open. We have garbage collection, we have the library. Like we have the caravan, we still have all of the services that we're providing. So those cuts, I really think, have hit staffing levels hard. And everyone's trying to make do. And at some point in time, the system falls apart, right? So we have to make sure that we have everybody in place that needs to do the right job, the right people for the right jobs. And I think that's like from what I'm hearing, I'm thinking we're seeing that we recognize that we need to figure out what those right positions are.
We do, we just have to do it in such a way that it's not gonna hit us too hard.
That's right.
In
That's
the
right.
process.
We can't necessarily do everything in
That's
the
right.
first year, but we have to
But we
be
can pick,
cognizant of that.
right. I mean, there are
Except for the
priorities.
IT we need.
Priority, like, well, that's
Yeah.
right, we're setting priorities.
We're
And this could very well be a
priority.
priority. I
And what
mean,
we
you know,
basically said is recreation programs and IT and services, okay? And not, just say, I'll call it delivery of services, okay? The IT is part of that, and it's part of like maybe allowing someone to log in and see their tax account or whatever. as part of
recreation is a
that.
big item. I've heard so much about it
Yeah.
since I've been
Yeah.
here, and it's, a lot of people talk about it, and some are happy, and some are not. And it's just that way, and you can't please everyone,
No,
you know?
no.
But you try to please the
It's
mass.
the value added in the community, right? That what sets us
Yes.
apart
From a
the
different,
communities
yeah,
around
yeah.
us,
Yeah.
right? Because we have those things.
And we have people using our items, and then that's fine. I mean, you know,
And I
It's
had,
good.
I had an item here called summer recreation program, utilize the arena in July, okay? But this comes under recreation, so if we get a full-time recreation director in here who specializes in these types of things, likely is they'll look and say, I've got an empty arena in July, and maybe we can set something up for the kids to come in and do some activities. And
So the gym zone does rent it for a week.
Okay.
For their gymnastics program.
Okay,
And then there's the indoor pickleball that runs there as well.
okay,
And I'm not sure if the library program they might use it occasionally.
okay, so maybe it isn't.
So it's not completely empty.
Okay,
Just in case. you
okay,
wonder.
anyway, but it was really improved summer recreation program was really key to me, okay? We have a lot of things for the winter. In the summer, almost everything stops there in June or before that. You got fall in the spring. There's not, the pool's closed, okay, for a month. But anyway, it's sort of covered by looking at recreation.
And we do have in there the complex roof, Cynthia, that we were talking about replacing.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, we're hoping, I don't know if we'll be successful in the grant application, and if not, we'll have to cover it from our reserves.
Okay, because that's a must.
Mhm.
So it is,
Yeah.
because liability and everything.
Yeah. Okay, I had one more item, okay, on the change the level of service. Maybe I should go into capital plan. I'll move that when we talk about capital. Does anybody have anything else relative to changes in level of service? We've got recreation and we've got the IT area are the two main things we're looking for.
Oh, I have a question. I mean,
Okay.
it probably isn't part of this, but it bothered me because I got a letter on it, or somebody, I seen it somewhere, about the, are the people that was doing that road, are they done now? Are they finished?
What road?
Well, the new road that we just put in, the extension here, or not the extension, but the
Highway
little,
6, you mean?
yeah, the Highway 6 project.
Oh, the connecting link
Yeah.
section.
Yeah.
It is done, yes.
Are they supposed to come back? Like just for the deficiencies?
There's a few minor deficiencies
Oh,
on the
okay.
list. I'm not sure what they are.
I know there was some areas where I guess the walkway had fallen below
Oh, okay.
below the curb, and it was causing water to settle there. And I thought that was a bad idea because in the wintertime, that's gonna freeze,
Yeah.
right?
I'm sure that Public Works would be on top of that. But I'll follow up.
I believe they did check it. I'm not positive.
Do you know where those are?
I'll think about
You can
it.
get back to Cynthia
Yeah,
on
you can
that.
just let me know. And
Okay,
we can follow
all right.
up. Yeah, there is, I think, yeah, there's conditions under the contract that they come back and check and that kind of things.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they would, yeah.
So we've sort of covered items 1 and 2, which are changes in addition to service. What initial initiatives should the town implement for long-term planning and legislative requirements? Now, Cynthia will pick up anything that she knows that's coming through. I don't think any of us have anything else there. The next item on the agenda was operating budget change guidelines, okay? And if we split out operating budget and new initiatives, what guidelines do we want to provide for staff for a target increase in the operating budget? I think it should be at least inflation, okay?
What is inflation?
It's running around,
One and a
it would be around 1.5, it could be. Well, by the way, the last 3 items here where I just made an assumption of 1.8, okay? Just so that, but we're somewhere around 1.5, maybe slightly higher, slightly
Yeah,
lower.
well, last year was 2%, and then the other ones were just under 2.
Is that hypothetical, the 2%, or was
No,
that
last year.
No, it's been 1.5 to 2%.
all the way through, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So that's gonna be the range that we're talking about, okay? If that's all right with everybody, or do we,
Well,
maybe Cynthia will have some comments there too, okay?
that's what I'd like to wait for.
Yeah.
I'd like to wait to see what
Okay.
City comes up with.
Because I think, oh, sorry.
Sorry, I think to start, you could probably look at the 2%, but we have to realize that all these other changes we're asking for is gonna have an impact on it. But as a
Yeah.
base guideline to start, I think the 2% would be realistic to give you a starting point as to what you're going to put in on there.
And that'll be 2%, and then in addition to that, we'll have whatever addition we put in for recreation, whatever, so that may
Yes.
have
Yes,
knock that up above that 2% level.
yes. Yeah, I realize that.
Okay?
And I'll
Everybody
stay
happy with
reserved.
that?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, well, department managers will have a good handle in terms of, because there may be some contracts that go up higher than 2%
Yeah,
based on what they're negotiating with their suppliers, so.
Yeah.
I think, if we give guidelines to our department managers that say, you're targeting the cost of, CPI index increases, right, cost of living index. So that's what we should be targeting. And then anything else that they're proposing, they know their department, so there may be other things that are coming and they have to justify that in the budget process.
Okay, we're all right, everybody all right with saying 2%?
well,
Okay,
I'm all right. I'm gonna stay reserved on this
Okay.
up until such time as I can
Okay, but we're not
put
gonna,
something to it.
that's and if Cynthia can come in a little bit below that, that's great, and that may meet the cost of living there, or CPI index.
That would be fine.
Okay, the last item I have is the capital plan. Most of the capital plan is going to be driven by our needs to maintain and our current infrastructure. So what I was looking for here was things that would be outside the norm, okay, or maybe a little bit outside the norm of just maintaining what we have, okay? So I have a few items here, if you don't mind me starting with that. One is we built a new fire hall, but one of the items that we had talked about was upgrading the public works building for disabled access, lunchrooms, and office area. We have to make some changes there, and we understood that with Joel moving over and that the lunchroom we need a layout to reorganize that.
Yeah.
So I think we should at least target to see that in the budget, okay?
I think so too. I mean,
And you may have already thought you were gonna put that in there, but
Not quite yet, because I wasn't in a hurry until it was 2020.
yeah,
So we have a few years.
Yeah.
yet.
but we should upgrade that building, okay? Now, maybe we may want to defer it for a year, but let's at least see what that is.
well, they definitely need something there.
Yeah,
But talking about that, if we did look at a new facility manager, and Joel went back to the Public Works, do they have the room now to accommodate him? Or would changes need to be made?
well, he has an office in the new fire hall.
Yeah, he doesn't, yeah, we haven't made those changes. They haven't
Okay.
not moved over. But yeah, if we.
That was the
bring
intention.
Joel up, yeah, for sure, he could have an office. There's an office for him identified at the fire hall. Yeah.
Okay, the second item I had was upgrade and replace old park equipment, and what I mean by upgrade is create an area for disabled, autistic, and older children.
Okay, there was more to that though, because
Yeah.
the upgrade is still a problem from what I read, right? We're trying to look at some new items, right?
Yeah, there has been a report come from Leisure Services from the rec committee. And I've asked them to go back and reconsider that, but it's all, and again, it was suggested for maybe an application for the recreation funding that's available to stage the playground upgrades. And I mean, there was talk about if council does want to look at a splash pad, we might look at replacing one of the existing playgrounds.
Oh, I see.
As opposed to a new structure. And then there's, we haven't heard back from the United Way about that pump bike park, or I was
Oh, yeah,
getting
yeah.
that wrong. So there's definitely some things underway with all the parks and playgrounds planning.
Well, then maybe we don't have any answers yet, right? So
No,
I guess
but
it
we
would be
will
something
be
to
putting
look forward
something
to.
in the budget, like for sure. Like,
Okay.
even if we haven't identified where we're going to start, I think Joel would like to start allocating $50,000 a year to.
So we're saying one or the other, Cynthia, just to be clear, we're saying one or the other, splash pad Or
you may have
another,
both.
or provide another park in a different area, or,
No, it hasn't, the whole splash pad thing hasn't really been
well, it hasn't served.
confirmed
That's right.
anywhere yet. So I think once that subcommittee is formed, they'll start looking at where the best location might be.
I think one of the things is we have outdated equipment in all the parks is beyond the
Yes.
normal age, so we got to replace that. But we should at least take 1 or 2 parks to create a pad where you can get access with someone with a wheelchair, and put in some features that will be good for an autistic person.
So under the legislation now,
Yeah.
if you do any major changes or upgrades to a park, you have to. There is no
Oh,
choice.
okay.
You
That's
can't
right.
just change all the equipment and not make it accessible. If you do that,
You have to do that for every park?
if you're making major changes to it.
Okay, so if you just replace the equipment with what you have
If
on
you're
some parks?
replacing a slide for a slide,
Okay,
probably not, but when you look at our parks where we know that they're end of life,
mhm.
I'm not sure how much money we have to spend. I think it's more than half before it becomes a problem.
I'm not sure. But
I'm not either,
Yeah,
but I saw it somewhere.
yeah.
Anyway, all I'm saying is we should start allocating money there, and staff may very well have been doing that. I'm just saying, you're getting permission from council to turn around and at least roll some of that stuff into the budget. Now, one of the things we do have is we sold on Espinal Hydro, so there's some money here, but a lot of the parts we're going to try to do with grants if we can, but some of them we won't be able to.
Well, I have no idea how successful
Yeah.
it might be. It's going to be a very competitive
Yeah,
process because
yeah.
there hasn't been that size of recreation funding available really for, really long time.
Okay,
What's the norm?
so,
And if we were looking at,
Oh,
Normally get like,
not great.
yeah.
if we were looking at a park, I would only go like 1 a year to do any
Yeah.
changing and
Yeah.
not quite a few.
Yeah, but we have to start because they're pretty much all at the end of
Yeah,
their
and if we're
useful
gonna
life.
make it for the.
Yeah.
and the point I'm making is, we're not just going to replace the equipment, okay, with what we have or something slightly different. We're going to make sure we target disabilities, autism, and maybe older children. So there may be some slant to try to, at least on some of the parks there anyway.
Also there last year with our budget, so I don't know if I'm out of the area or not, but the library was looking for new computers in that, and they didn't get them. So maybe if it's that important, we should be looking at allocating some money for their computer upgrades, because they needed them too.
Okay, that'll probably come through as part of their normal request, but we'll see.
That they were looking at getting some kind of an analysis of what they need and what
Yeah.
would work for.
Because that's like maintaining the infrastructure you have.
Yeah.
Okay, I had one other item, or 2 others. One is, I would like to see us upgrade the trails or walkways in Espanola a little bit. When you go along Queensway, if you start at Mead and you go towards the hospital, all of a sudden there's no walkways of any sort to get to Lee Valley Road. From 2nd Street up to the trailer park and beyond, there's no walkways of any way. And I'm not looking at maybe putting in cement walkways, even a pathway, so that in the winter and people don't always have to walk on the road. And it would sort of improve the mobility ability to people to walk around there. There's a whole section of town that could then turn around and walk up Lee Valley Road there, or go to Mead and walk around that way. And some of the people living in the trailer park and a little bit beyond might be able to do that.
Mhm.
Okay, we may be a little premature to turn around and estimate the cost there, but we might need a little bit of money in there to turn around and have someone do an estimate of what it might cost to put in some, okay.
What distance are we talking?
I
Okay.
think, okay, sorry.
What's the distance?
I'm guessing
Kilometer?
maybe 1.5 kilometers. If you go
Yeah.
up Lee Valley Road 1 kilometer and maybe cross over to Queensway,
Maybe a bit more than that.
maybe a little more than that. I don't know how far we'd want to go up, but maybe you just do part of that way and then at a future date go a little further up. In the wintertime, I've heard from some of the residents that, you know, it's not that safe to be walking along the road. The roads aren't that there and people are zipping along there. Even just a dirt walkway, okay, that you could walk over and just stay off the main road would be
There are
nice.
places there that you'd have to go into the
There's a ditch.
Yeah.
ditch, yeah.
Yeah,
So
I don't know what the estimate is there, and maybe you avoid those areas. Okay, I just throwing that out, okay? Go ahead, Paula.
So we can refer it to the, we did the cycling study in town, and it wasn't just for cycling, it was getting around town, it was pedestrian walks, it was, so there are quite a few things identified in there that might help to kind of, I think they did recommend some improvements in areas and so forth to make it,
So
you know, more
final-
pedestrian friendly, more
Yeah.
cycling friendly, that kind of thing, so.
So it might be something we prepare to do on the capital side, okay, is to spend some money to turn around and do some upgrading in that area.
It was also identified in the rec master plan to improve the trails.
Yeah, so.
And that's also positive because with our economic development and trying to bring more people into Espanola, that's just gonna be better for all the way around.
Can we just ask at this point in time, the staff to say what would they think that we should do, okay? And
Come back with a recommendation.
roughly what it might cost. Maybe it costs if you do, I don't know, maybe it's a $200,000 a kilometer or $500,000 a kilometer. I don't know what it is.
No, we understand, yeah.
Just get an idea of what it might be.
Well, I'd be happy to look at something like that and a recommendation to do whatever.
Yeah. Okay, and the last item, I guess I covered it all. Yeah. Okay, anybody else have anything? Go ahead.
Just, and it just kind of came up, and we have a lot of different plans that we have. We have our asset management plan, we have a rec master plan, we have the cycling plan. So we have all of these different things, and I think we need to make sure that we're looking to see if there's any priorities that were identified out of any of those plans that need to, that don't fall off the list, right? So we need to make sure that
Sure.
we're allocating
Another
there. Like some of these things are nice, but I think we're looking at very, very aggressive spending if we're looking at doing all of these. So we have to make sure that we're prioritizing these things.
Some are mentioned, yeah.
That's right. And we have our strategic plan. It's going to be coming back to us soon, I hope. And so we need to make sure that everything that we do ties in together with all of that. So we're taking our community in the same direction that we're agreeing to,
No, I agree.
right? So like, and we have to be cognizant of timelines. We know we need to do some work potentially in the public works building, but we know we're not forced to do anything until 2025. So are we okay with that? Is that going to be a little bit less of a priority in the next couple of years, but then higher? And is the playground going to be a little bit higher because we know they're at the end of the useful life? And I think we do a pretty good job as a community to make sure that we're identifying those priorities.
Oh, yeah.
So I think hopefully we've given you lots of
Well,
of information. Oh, she has a page of notes.
She has it all in her mind.
Paula probably has 3 pages of notes over there.
Yeah.
So we have, Tracy's flipped her page, so we have lots of good ideas, a lot of places that we want to go, and I think we have to be careful, like, because we
Sure.
have a lot of money that we've just potentially added to that budget.
I agree.
So, but it's a matter of stacking those priorities, right? And making sure that we're doing the best job that we possibly can for everybody in the community.
Yeah.
And I don't think it has to be this year, or I mean, next year, or, you know, in the future. I mean, we're looking futuristically here, ahead, we're looking ahead.
But it means that they may take the highest priorities and say, well, let's look at maybe doing
Sure.
this year. What would it cost?
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
put that into the capital
Yeah.
budget.
I
We
would
may or
agree.
may not decide to do it, okay, but at least we'll see roughly what the dollars are once we see the whole picture.
Yeah.
One of the things we do have is we have some money that we've gotten from the sale of Ontario Hydro. So we have some options. We don't want to blow it, but we
Keep saying that.
yeah, well,
I've been hearing it for a couple of years.
I found it actually happened.
We probably spent that money 10 times over now.
It actually happened.
I
Okay,
have one question.
okay.
Does staff have something that we have not mentioned that you think is a priority? Anybody?
Well, can I answer a little bit first?
Well, are you staff?
Well, but like we heard from at the council meeting the other night, we have assets, right, out of the asset management plan. We have a number of things in terms of equipment from Public Works.
That's true.
Like they're gonna have all of their priorities in their department that they're gonna have to identify through their regular process, right? And they'll need to be able to juggle some of the things that we're mentioning into theirs. And I'm sure that most of the things that we've talked about I don't think any of them would really come up as a surprise.
No, I can't think of anything that we haven't already
I agree.
somewhat discussed. I mean, we
Yeah.
know we're gonna have the Capital Links project, or Connecting Links project, sorry. And, well, there's something else too, but we've already talked about it, and then Dave's equipment list, and we know at the arena that we have some major capital items there. So I don't think that there's anything that would come as a surprise at all.
I mean, yeah, that's why I wanted to talk about new initiatives, because they're gonna bring, there's lots of things that they're aware of for the day-to-day operation that we're not aware of.
Oh, there's a
okay?
lot of goals we're gonna have to get to,
Yeah.
I mean, for sure.
So we're just trying to say, here's maybe some things that you may not have been considering, okay, and here's some priorities for council.
The other item that I would like to mention that was on the list, and we did apply for funding last year for the trunk main coming in from the water treatment plant to
Oh, yeah.
the Queensway, and we weren't successful, so we didn't move forward with that. But I think that main line is a priority, and it's probably going to be very expensive. So that is going to. There's no current funding programs available. It will take up a chunk of our reserves right now.
Yeah.
And what about, like we have the complaint letter with the sewer, that we have to flushing in that? Now, is there anything in there that's got to be looked at too right away, or? Because from what I remember, it was planned, but it was put off for another year.
Well, it was never really put off because it was never scheduled, but we do have the design work done for sort of phase 2 of our water and sewer infrastructure upgrades, and that main trunk line is part of that, and it's a higher priority.
Okay. That's good.
Okay, if everybody's happy, have a resolution here moved by Jill, seconded by Maureen. Yeah, and Allenstein. Be it resolved that the special meeting of council is hereby adjourned. And I've got 5:08. All those in favor?
Well, speaking personally, I think it was a very good meeting, a very informative one.